The story of Laci Peterson is one that gripped the nation, a heartbreaking tale of love, betrayal, and justice that continues to spark debate even decades later. A love story turned tragic. Laci Denise Rocha was born on May 4, 1975, in Modesto, California. She was the kind of woman who could light up a room, warm, friendly, and full of life. She had dreams of being a mother, of building a future with the man she loved. That man was Scott Peterson, whom she met while they were both students at California Polytechnic State University in San Luis Obispo. From the outside, their relationship seemed perfect. They married in 1997, settled into a comfortable life in Modesto, and in 2002, Laci was eagerly preparing to welcome their first child, a little boy she had already named Conner. She was 8 months pregnant, glowing with the anticipation of motherhood, when she disappeared. The day Laci vanished. December 24, 2002, should have been a joyful day. It was Christmas Eve, a time for family, laughter, and celebration. But for Laci's family, it would mark the beginning of a nightmare. That morning, according to Scott, Laci had plans to take their dog, Mackenzie, for a walk in the neighborhood while he went fishing at the Berkeley Marina, an odd choice for a rainy winter morning, especially given that Scott had never shown much interest in fishing before. By the time Scott returned home later that afternoon, Laci was gone. The only sign of her was their golden retriever, Mackenzie, found wandering the neighborhood with his leash still attached. When Scott called Laci's mother, Sharon Rocha, with the news that she was missing, panic set in. Laci's family and friends immediately sprang into action. Flyers were printed, search parties were formed.
We're checking again.
So it's a continual search as far as nothing new, no...
No, I just got a message on my MDT that said there's nothing new, no new information.
Is it unusual for a grown woman to disappear like this? I mean, you heard of kids disappear, right?
It seems unusual.
And the media quickly picked up the story. A beautiful, young, pregnant woman missing without a trace. People across the country were captivated by the case. But as the days passed, the hope of finding Laci alive began to dwindle.
Thank all of you for being here and helping us trying to find our daughter. And we'd just like to send a message out there that whoever has her, please, please, please let her go. Bring her back to us.
We love her so much. We want her back. Please, let us have her back.
Scott Peterson, the loving husband or a cold-hearted killer. At first, Scott played the part of the worried husband. He stood before the cameras, pleading for Laci's safe return. But behind the scenes, things didn't quite add up. His behavior was off, too calm, too detached. While Laci's family was devastated, desperately clinging to hope, Scott seemed strangely unaffected. Then came the bombshell that changed everything. Scott had a mistress. Amber Frey, a massage therapist from Fresno, came forward, revealing that she had been dating Scott in the weeks before Laci disappeared. She had no idea he was married, let alone that his wife was pregnant. When she learned the truth, she agreed to work with investigators, recording phone conversations with Scott. In those recordings, he lied to her repeatedly, even telling her he had lost his wife before Laci had even vanished.
Are you listening?
I am.
You came to me earlier in December and told me that you had lost your wife. What was that about?
She's alive.
Where? She's alive? Where?
In Modesto. I can't explain any more now.
This revelation shattered Scott's already fragile image, turning public opinion against him. What kind of man carries on an affair while his pregnant wife is missing? And worse, what if that affair was the motive for murder? For months, searches for Laci came up empty. Then, in April 2003, the unthinkable happened.
Earlier this week, East Bay Park authorities discovered 2 bodies. There is no question in our minds that the unidentified female is Laci Peterson. The unidentified fetus is the biological child of Laci and Scott Peterson.
A couple walking along the San Francisco Bay shoreline discovered the remains of a tiny baby, Laci's unborn son, Conner. The next day, Laci's partial remains were found nearby. She had been in the water for months, her body badly decomposed, but there was no mistaking it. Laci was gone. The location of the bodies only fueled suspicion. They were found near the very marina where Scott had gone fishing the day Laci disappeared. That was enough for authorities. Scott was arrested on April 18, 2003, near a golf course in La Jolla. He had dyed his hair, carried thousands of dollars in cash, and had his brother's ID on him, leading many to believe he was planning to flee. The trial that captivated the nation. Scott Peterson's trial began in 2004, and it was nothing short of a media spectacle. The prosecution painted him as a cold-blooded killer, a man who wanted to escape his responsibilities as a husband and father. The motive? His affair with Amber Frey and his desire for a new life, one free from Laci and the baby. The defense argued that there was no direct evidence tying Scott to the murder. There was no murder weapon, no crime scene, and no witnesses. They suggested that Laci had been abducted and murdered by someone else. But for the jury, the circumstantial evidence was overwhelming. Scott's lies, his demeanor, the location of Laci and Conner's bodies, it all pointed in one direction. On November 12, 2004, the jury found Scott Peterson guilty of first-degree murder for Laci and second-degree murder for Conner. A month later, he was sentenced to death, a case that refuses to rest. Even with Scott behind bars at San Quentin, the case never truly ended. His legal team launched appeal after appeal, arguing that media bias and juror misconduct had tainted the trial. In 2020, the California Supreme Court overturned Scott's death sentence due to errors in jury selection. While his conviction remained, he was resentenced in 2021 to life in prison without the possibility of parole. And yet, the debates continue. Some believe Scott is guilty beyond a doubt, while others question whether he received a fair trial. The case has been revisited in countless documentaries, podcasts, and books, ensuring that Laci's story is never forgotten. Remembering Laci. At the heart of it all is Laci, a woman who should have been celebrating her son's first Christmas, who should have had the chance to be the mother she always dreamed of being. Her family continues to honor her memory, advocating for victims' rights and keeping her spirit alive. Though justice was served in the courtroom, the heartbreak of losing Laci and Conner remains. The story of Laci Peterson isn't just a true crime case. It's a reminder of how quickly a seemingly perfect life can unravel and how the people we think we know best can sometimes be the ones hiding the darkest secrets.